This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. High drama in Mandeville as shooters engage police in firefight. There was high drama in the Manchester capital Thursday afternoon as the shooters engaged the police in a daring firefight along Main Street in the vicinity of Villa Plaza. Frantic people scampered to safety as the gunshots rang out. Investigators say sometime after 3 p.m., the police responded to a tip that suspicious people were in a motor car. The police reportedly attempted to intercept the vehicle when they were fired on. It was just one barrage of gunshot that sounded like it was coming from everywhere, said one man who worked near the Villa Plaza in the vicinity of the shooting. He said a woman was among the shooters. It was one of what we read about in places like Kingston and Montego Bay, he said. Another man who said he witnessed the incident told the news that it happened quickly. I was sitting in my van in the parking lot and I closed my eyes for a minute because me tired and I started hearing some shots firing. By the time me look up, me see a car blaze gone and a bag of police in the area, said the eyewitness who requested anonymity. The shooters managed to flee in the motor car. However, the police retrieved a number of spent shells from the scene. Suspects in custody for St. James' triple murder. The St. James police have taken 3 men into custody for questioning in connection with the shooting deaths of 19-year-old twin brothers and their 11-year-old sister at their home in Irwin Heights on Wednesday night. The victims have been identified as a 19-year-old Giovanni Stewart, otherwise called Bigger, his brother Javon, otherwise called the Little Man, and Peter Gay Cook. Reports by the Freeport police are that about 7:15 p.m., the siblings, their mother and their 1-year-old cousin, were home when the mom left to collect an item from the neighbors. Minutes later, men armed with handguns forced their way into the house and opened fire, hitting the twins and the preteen. The mother rushed home to discover her 3 children lying in pools of blood inside a bedroom. The twins had multiple gunshot wounds while Peter Gay sustained 1 bullet wound to her upper body. The 46-year-old woman raised an alarm and the police were summoned. On their arrival, the scene was processed and the bodies removed to the morgue for post-mortem. On Thursday, several community members expressed their shock at the cold-blooded act. "Me can't believe said them things really happening in Irwin Heights," one resident who gave his name as Ricky said. "This is a wicked act. Dennis just lose our 3 children just like that. And for what? Over little foolishness?" the angry community member stated. The elderly man believes that the siblings may have been murdered over a recent incident in the community involved other men from the area. When contacted, a senior police officer confirmed that they had received a report that the brothers had been held at gunpoint in the past. The accused were taken into custody. The police carried out an investigation into the report, which led to 2 of the men being arrested, and those men are presently still in police custody, he further stated. The senior cop related that the police have strong reason to believe that this incident may have contributed to the brothers and their sister being murdered. Shortly after the murder of the siblings, we carried out a number of raids at various premises in Irwin Heights and took several men into custody, 3 of whom we believe can assist us in our investigation, the cop said. St. James recorded 4 murders on Wednesday, taking the total number of slains in the parish since the start of the year to 48. Prior to the murder, another victim, 26-year-old Andre Fullerton of Kirkpatrick Road in the neighboring community Orange, was shot and killed by attackers traveling in a motor vehicle along the Orange Main Road on Wednesday morning. An investigation was also launched into that killing. JCF failed to take action against the 108 members despite INDECOM recommendation. The Independent Commission of Investigations, INDECOM, is reporting that the Jamaica Constabulary Force failed to act on its recommendation for disciplinary action to be taken against the 108 officers during the period from 2018 to 2021. The investigative body says recommendations for disciplinary proceedings against the 138 officers were made from 2010 to 2017, but no hearings were held. Indicom Commissioner Hugh Faulkner on Thursday expressed a concern about the lack of response from the JCF. He said the failure to hold the members to account compromises the integrity of the police force.
This is of concern to Indicom, as there's a continued absence of any meaningful outcomes in progressing the discipline cases, which have been identified as breaches of the police disciplinary code. Whether that breach is major or minor is immaterial. Both the failure to notify the Commission under the Indicom Act of the progress of the files that have been submitted, and the failure to implement and conclude any disciplinary hearing are unsatisfactory. I probe reports that of the 80 Commission reports that were submitted, 36 reports were still under review and or investigation by iProbe. 38 of the 80 reports were reviewed by iProbe and submitted to the JCF administrative branch for action. And iProbe also reports that 6 reports were reviewed and deemed not suitable for current action. But of the 38 cases where review has been completed by iProbe, 81% included the notation by iProbe that they are in support of the recommendations of Indicom for discipline. In reporting to Indicom, the JCF should include the status of the case, which is under review, whether it has been referred to administration branch for closure or disciplinary action, and any other development in the matter. If at the end of the review, the JCF is not in agreement with the recommendation of disciplinary action, a report is to be submitted to Indicom explaining the reason for non-compliance with said recommendation.
Councillor William Sital crosses to PNP. Jamaica Labour Party councillor for the Troja division in St. Catherine, William Sital, on Thursday crossed the floor and joined the People's National Party. He announced the decision during the monthly meeting of the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation. Chairman of the corporation, Norman Scott, said Mr. Sital made a formal application to become a member of the PNP and it was accepted. However, he noted that although Mr. Sital is now a PNP member, this does not mean he will automatically represent the division in the next local government election.
Whilst he has been accepted as a member of the PNP, this doesn't mean that he will automatically represent the division. There are structures within the division which will have to be, and it is a process, and all of those things will come at a later date.
Montague and Bunting take issue with Integrity Commission's FLA report. Two former Minister of National Security, Robert Montague and Peter Bunting, have taken issue with the Integrity Commission report on its probe regarding the granting of gun license by the Firearm Licensing Authority from 2012 to 2018. Mr. Montague and Mr. Bunting were flagged for approving license for persons with criminal traces who were initially found unfit to hold a firearm by the FLA. Mr. Montague approved 6 such licenses and Mr. Bunting 2. In a statement on Thursday, Mr. Montague said the Integrity Commission report is grossly misrepresentative and incomplete. He said he was not given the opportunity to respond to what the Commission sought to assert as facts. According to Mr. Montague, the report also failed to take into consideration that his actions were informed and guided by the recommendation of a panel of experts, which he asked to assist in assessing appeals made to him in his capacity as a Minister of National Security. He has referred the Integrity Commission report to his lawyers for further review. In a statement Thursday afternoon, Peter Bunting shed light on 2 firearm application appeals which occurred while he was National Security Minister. He said one case involved a person who had been charged 10 years earlier with cocaine-related offenses while they were a student in Florida and whose record was subsequently expunged. The second case involved an individual who had been accused of molesting his wife's relative. Mr. Bunting said this was told to the investigator, but a formal report was never made to the police. Mr. Bunty noted that, based on his recollection, the Firearm Review Board recommended that the license be granted or restored, and as minister, he acted in accordance with their recommendations. Opposition dismisses government's no new tax announcement. Opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson has scoffed at Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clarke's announcement of no new taxes, saying the government is already on track to reap a windfall in taxes from increases in the prices of goods. Delivering his presentation in the budget debate on Thursday afternoon, Mr. Robinson said Jamaicans were facing a cost of living crisis as oil prices increase and the cost of basic foods skyrocket. Mr. Robinson said while data from the government indicate that the annual inflation rate will be in the range of 8 to 9% in just the last year, Jamaicans have been subjected to increases of up to 40% for basic food items. These increases, he said, will translate to benefits for the government.
Let's assume this pen cost $100 last year. If you take the GCT on it, the GCT collection to the minister would have been $15. If the same pen increases to $150 this year, the collection to the minister is no longer $15, but $22.50. 15% of $150. So the minister would collect an additional $7.50 in GCT on this item alone, just because of inflation. If we take this example across the wide range of goods and services, we can see how the government will collect significantly more in tax revenues without the need to introduce any new measures. So whether it's maca or prickle, it joke you the same exact way. The government collects somewhere between $6 to $7 billion, 6 to 7, not 67, $6 to $7 billion annually from the hedge tax. We are calling, Madam Speaker, on the government to allocate the full amount that it collects from the hedge tax and put that in relief for those who are suffering from high gas prices. Not just the $2 billion. To put $9,000 in perspective, $9,000 could not buy one single bottle of the rosé champagne that a minister, a councillor, and their friends were drinking on the No Movement Day at that hotel in Newcastle. Not one buckle of that champagne. And they weren't drinking one buckle. They were drinking about 5 or 6. But our new minimum wage couldn't buy one buckle of that rosé champagne. $9,000 per week can neither address food poverty nor education inequality. It is a vicious cycle. On behalf of the workers of Jamaica, the opposition is calling for an increase in the minimum wage to $12,000 per week. We also believe at this particular time, with oil prices at $120 per barrel, that we are facing an energy crisis, and it requires the active involvement of the government as a shareholder in a strategic and critical asset such as the JPS. There are other reasons why we oppose the divestment. The divestment seems to be motivated simply by a desire to raise revenues to meet some general budgetary activities. And there doesn't seem to be any strategic intent in that divestment.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.